Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And there has been a lot of controversy over the last couple of weeks in the world of Formula 1, and I thought we'd quickly discuss all that today. So, obviously it started with Christian Horner. He was under investigation by Red Bull for misconduct of some kind. Wasn't a whole lot of information out about it, but eventually he was cleared by an independent panel and everything seemed to be just fine. One day later, apparently a load of screenshots of texts and images and whatever else were sent to journalists and team principals in the FIA and whoever else, and that sort of brought the controversy back to the forefront. But at this point, nothing really seems to be happening about it. Red Bull haven't said they're going to reinvestigate it. Christian Horner is adamant that he's done nothing wrong and he's going to stay at his job. And to be honest, that should probably be the end of it. If anyone was so certain he'd done something wrong, Red Bull would sack him straight away because they don't want to be made to look bad. They have Ford coming in a couple of years. They don't want to jeopardise that partnership because that's money. Then, honestly, if there was a problem, Christian Horner would be gone like that. Just out of there. So it's a bit muddier than that. To be honest, in my opinion, if it's just that he's a bit of a horn dog, unless Red Bull specifically have rules against that, he's not done anything illegal. And if this was a non-consensual relationship, it would have gone to the police or something would have turned up in the investigation, surely. And again, it'd just be gone, just like that. So my thinking, what I presume has happened, and this is only a presumption, he's either it's completely made up, and let's face it, with AI generated content these days, a journalist could do that and send it to everyone. I haven't seen it, I don't know. The other alternative is maybe he had a relationship with a female employee, broke it off, and then essentially they held it over him and gone public, jeopardise his work, his relationship with a Spice Girl. But again, it's not illegal, it's really just a personal matter to sort out. Now for Red Bull, it's kind of a choice between getting rid of someone who's been involved with your Formula 1 operations since the beginning. Christian Horner has been there since 2005 and has brought a lot of success to them in that time. He took them from a midfield struggling team that had previously run as Jaguar very unsuccessfully. He took that team and he made them dominant champions before and has brought them back to the forefront as dominant champions again. Do you really want to get rid of that over an accusation of whatever the accusation is? I'm disrespecting. That's not even really the allegation. Controlling behaviour was the thing I heard first, but I haven't heard that mentioned since the leaks. So that doesn't seem to be an issue. It just seems to be that he may or may not have had a sexual relationship with a female employee, possibly sexting. But again, it doesn't sound like it was non-consensual sexting, because again, if that was the case, he'd be fired straight away. So for Red Bull, I'm thinking they just want to sweep it under the rug. Not helping the matter though is Jos Verstappen, who has said he wants Christian Horner gone and he's not attending any Grand Prix until he has, which doesn't sound too bad. That actually sounds like a really good deal. But on the other hand, Max has said he doesn't want to attend races without his dad, and now it muddies the waters because their champion might not want to race for him anymore. Making that even more difficult is the fact there's a Mercedes seat open for next year, and Max might be tempted to take it, although again, why would you give up the best car in the field to go to a team who have been struggling? Maybe Max is good enough that the team doesn't really matter, but I think it would be a mistake. He's so dominant in the Red Bull, he could honestly just keep his head down, stay out of it, and take it as long as he can. Take the wins, take the championships, whatever else. Jos Verstappen having a problem with Christian Horner, possibly having relations with a female, is hilarious because even if Christian Horner has done something wrong, Jos Verstappen has been Well, he's been charged with bad things, let's put it that way. I think he was charged with assaulting an ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend or something, assaulting other people. In fact, he's actually been told off for assault a fair few times, but a couple of those occasions have been against women. So for him to come out and say Christian Horner should go for this is a little bit embarrassing. And there are other dodgy business dealings with Jos Verstappen, some of the people he's been involved with. I think I've talked about it before, but Jos Verstappen is definitely not, he's almost like a mafia type in the Formula One scene. Kind of in the Bernie Ecclestone mould, but maybe less restrained, not quite as subtle about it. But it is a difficult place for Red Bull to be, because it's sort of, if it comes down to choosing between Christian Horner and Max Verstappen, they could side with Max Verstappen, and then Max Verstappen could turn around and go for Mercedes anyway, and they'd lose both of them. So for Red Bull, it's almost an impossible choice. Do you stick with Christian Horner? And to make that more difficult, what would Adrian Newey do? Would he stay with Christian Horner? I don't think anyone's actually asked his opinion, but he kind of is Red Bull's secret weapon, and I think there's a lot in the balance of Red Bull here. Personally, I think, honestly, just give it a couple more weeks. It'll blow over. Christian Horner might have some things to sort out with Jerry Halliwell, but beyond that, I don't think it really affects Formula One all that much. We've had a couple of comments from drivers. Firstly, Sir Lewis Hamilton had to wade in, which, to be fair, he was asked about it, so I guess he has to. He brought up diversity and gender, and it doesn't really fit here, because it's not an issue of diversity or gender equality. It's a case of he had some kind of relation with a female employee. If anything, it's the opposite. I mean, in no way is it an issue of diversity or gender. Like, the only way it'd be an issue of gender is if he had slept with multiple women he was working with, as if it was some kind of personal harem, which that hasn't come out. But if he did do that, I would agree that it was wrong, and it would be an issue of gender equality, I guess. One thing I will say about Lewis Hamilton's comments were that I don't know if it's just the way it was written up when I was reading it, but it was a bit all over the place. Like, he seemed to start one thought and trail off into another one. Maybe he was jet lagged, maybe he's just really tired. He's had a long week, a bit. So maybe it wasn't the best time to ask him. Fernando Alonso as well came out with, it shows how boring Formula One is that fans are concentrating on all this controversy. I don't think that's the issue. It's not so much the fans as the journalists. It might be an issue that Formula One is so boring that journalists don't have enough to report on, so they're picking up all the stuff off the track, which I'm sure will make it into a Netflix series at some point. So I don't really agree with Fernando Alonso either. George Russell said something. I think it's amazing that he's the head of the GPDA, Grand Prix Drivers Association. For someone who's only been in Formula One for like 4 or 5 years now, he seems a bit too young to be doing that, but he is so bland, and he's Mr. Beige. He literally has no opinions on anything, and his statement was really perfect in that it was basically a culmination of what everyone else has said. Transparency, doing the right thing, waiting for the investigations or everything to work itself out, basically. And so therefore the Formula 1 drivers were very unhelpful in the matter. I don't think Toto Wolff has made any more comments since his last stupid comments, but that slimy toad is still a terrible person. But just when you thought that wasn't enough for Formula 1 to deal with at one time, the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem, has been involved in a controversy himself, and it's to do with a whistleblower bringing information to light about, apparently, bin Sulayem wanted to interfere with a race result in Saudi Arabia last year, and he tried to stop the sign-off of the Las Vegas Grand Prix track. Now, again, I think this is in the early stages of the investigation, so I don't know what has happened completely, or where it's going to go, or what could happen if he's going to resign. Maybe he's going to stay and try and discredit the whistleblower. It's a mess for Formula 1. It is a bad look. I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. To the fans, at least, it doesn't matter. But when you think about all the sponsors that are involved, you have manufacturers, lots of important people in terms of the business world look at their investments into Formula One. And when you have something like a corruption case, even compared to the Christian Horner incident, a corruption scandal would be devastating for Formula One right now, for the FIA as well. And race fixing, I'm sure this isn't the only occasion. In fact, when you think about the Felipe Massa trying to get the 2008 title overturned, that has to do with race fixing. His suggestion is that Bernie Ecclestone and others in the FIA knew that there was a good enough reason to have the Singapore Grand Prix results thrown out because of Crashgate. They knew that at the time, and therefore that race should have been void and Felipe Massa would have been champion, but they ignored it and tried to sweep it under the rug. Bernie Ecclestone has admitted that in statements, but it's a very complicated issue. I don't know if we'll ever hear about that, but that's another thing that's hanging over Formula One right now. But this Mohammed bin Sulayem thing, I mean, he's the president, he's the top of the FIA hierarchy. This is the last thing he needed to get caught up in. He's not been a great FIA president. There's been a few controversies with him. The fact that I can't remember what he said at the end of last year, where he was going to like take a back seat for like 3 months or 6 months or something, or forever maybe. And even before that, before the last season started, when he came up with the F1 drivers weren't allowed to talk about politics rules that I don't think have ever been enforced in any way. He's not been an effective FIA president. But this is a lot of messes for Formula One to sort out. Honestly, the bin Sulayem thing is worse for Formula One than the Christian Horner thing. The Christian Horner situation is something you'll hear about on Twitter more than the bin Sulayem one. But from a business point of view and the money in Formula One, that's the one that'll stick out. And that's the one that should worry everyone involved with Formula One. Because it doesn't tend to be just one or two things. If there are one or two instances of something dodgy going on, there's probably more, and more will come out. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new FIA president, whoever that is, and how that shapes Formula One going forward, or any motorsport really. It could change things, it probably wouldn't change things a big deal. As a fan, honestly, all of these issues don't really affect you in the slightest. In terms of watching Formula One, whether or not Christian Horner, Jos Verstappen are there, doesn't matter to you. Max Verstappen you'd probably notice, but otherwise, it doesn't matter. Mohammed bin Sulayem being there or not doesn't really affect you that much. So, keep watching Formula One, keep enjoying it, keep enjoying your motorsport. All this politics stuff, it's not that interesting anyway. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Christian Horner should go? What do you think should happen with Jos and Max Verstappen? Do you think they should leave Red Bull? Or suck it up and continue on? What do you think about Mohammed bin Sulayem? When do you think this will all be over? You have a Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to enjoy on Saturday, so make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe to this video as well. Thank you very much for watching. I am not very well at the moment. I have a really bad chest infection, but I have been powering through doing videos anyway, and it's not helping my voice at all. But I am trying to keep it going, but I am a bit breathless, and it does take me a bit longer to record stuff because I'm coughing throughout it. This might be a bit choppy, but I'm doing my best. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.